As we think then about sharing this conversation with people who are interested in organizing and the future of organizing, what then, as an experienced organizer, would be your advice? What are some of the tenets that you think that organizers should focus on for then changing this picture for the future?
Firstly, the first great lesson, certainly from SNCC's experience, and I think throughout the whole history of certainly Black community organizing in the United States, is that it is possible to dig in, gain a foothold, and organize struggle to effect meaningful change. Doesn't mean that every issue is going to be resolved, every problem is going to be solved, but it is possible under circumstances that you wouldn't have imagined to dig into these communities. Secondly, and I want to stress it is possible to win victories. You know, I don't think it's easy, certainly for me living in Florida, to get depressed. Looking around me at the political landscape and who runs it and how they run it. And so it's easy to get depressed. And by that, I mean have sustained depression. But it's important to recognize that it is possible to win victories, to be successful in what you set out to do. Not that you're going to be successful in everything you set out to do, but it is possible to do this. And I don't think I'm proposing some overly romantic notion of heroic martyrs and warriors. Thirdly and lastly, because it's one of the things I notice looking at today's movement, for lack of a better word, the movement of today's activists and how their composition. The movement today is much more integrated than I remember the movement from our time. And maybe that's from living in Florida, where when I look at activists in Florida, I see a lot of Hispanic activists. I see white activists. I see it in a way that seems different, even factoring in the Mississippi Summer Project of 1964. And that in some ways is a kind of victory. I think these right-wing people are going to lose. I happen to think that. And they will shoot their own selves in the foot. And Donald Trump is a good example of that. But I see a movement that's much more multiracial. And that does not mean that the concerns of Black people are somehow minimized in this more expanded movement. So when I look around Florida, what I see is not only more young activism, but I see a movement that's much more multiracial, and it's not contradictory with Black struggle. I mean, I still see myself as primarily concerned about Black struggle, even though I recognize that there is, in fact, a larger multiracial struggle underway too. And both abortion and education come immediately to mind as issues that transcend race, even though I could talk about those movements, those situations specifically in terms of race. So I'm focused on Black struggle, but I can't help but be aware of the fact that there's also, and it's different than the 1960s, I think. Does this country really want to have a democracy? It's one big issue, and it's not at all clear, but it's out there because there are powerful people out here working hard and aggressively to undermine it. And here I'm in the heartland of where that is unfolding.